I mean, I started on that product in Hamleys right by the front door on a cold February 1979, I think it was. And it was an old product even then. And when I took it from Hamleys to Harrods, an old boy buyer at the time, he picked it up with tweezers, put it in the bin and said, "Not that old stinker." It made me feel terrible. A few weeks later, rather than being negative, went back to Harrods, but their art and craft department happened to be on the ground floor. And we had a 1 week promotion there. Been there 40 years thereafter. Went on to sell literally millions of that item. So when that guy said, "Not that old stinker," it sort of rings a bell. Be nice to people over the, you know.
Did you ever get the chance to see him again, just to be
Funny enough, I did. I saw him some years later when I was a bit more experienced in the industry, and he had obviously left Harrods or lost his job there and was working for a toy company. He was on his hands and knees dusting some shelves on the bottom, and I was sort of looking, and I didn't say anything. I just thought something.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Desert Island Tricks. Now, you could be watching this or listening to this because this is actually a video version as well. So you can go to our YouTube and watch this if you want to. I would recommend that because today's guest is an actual legend. Now, we've had some incredible guests on this podcast and I've been incredibly blessed to speak to some of my heroes growing up. But there's probably one person who without, I would not have been a magician. I definitely grew up on a certain kind of magic set, owned every single one of these from Executive Collection 1, 2, Pub Tricks, which was in like a tube. I had the Magic Circle green and red boxes, quite literally everything. And I even, this is how sad I am, guys, do not judge me for this. I even stayed up on QVC and filmed a QVC segment, and I would watch that back over and over again. Now, today's guest, I would say, has probably inspired and influenced not just a generation of magicians, but certainly multiple generations, and still does to this very day. Of course, he doesn't really need an introduction, but it would have been rude for me not to. Today's guest is the president of the Magic Circle, the wonderful Marvin Berglas. Thank you so much, Marvin.
Great pleasure, and what a nice introduction.
Well, it's true. When I think about all of the friends of mine who are now magicians and all of the guests that we've had on the podcast who have spoken about you and your dad and the influence that you've both had on the community, it's substantial, really.
Oh, it's amazing. And that's, if there's one legacy that I hopefully will leave, it's that I like to think we've encouraged literally thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of young magicians over the 38 years we've been going, and 2 generations, as you say. What's really fantastic is amongst them, obviously, there's hobbyists. Everyone starts off with a magic set, and the idea is to get them to want the next one and the next one like you.
Yeah.
And if you have success fooling your friends and family, you tend to sort of build and want a sponge for knowing the next thing. And we really put a lot of effort into making quality and innovative sets for the marketplace, specifically for the sort of ages that they were intended, and it's what's really encouraging is that not only have so many then gone on to become demonstrators over the year, but so many have gone on to become members of the Magic Circle, and professionals and even elite magicians. I was at FISM recently in Italy, and the guy who won the one thing in Blackpool, Robin DeVille, he won the main prize for that, and he was a European FISM champ. He showed me a picture when he was here for our convention of him on his 7th or 8th birthday opening a Marvin's Magic set, and that's what got him. So things like that are great. People like Justin Willman, for example, when I saw him in Vegas, he said that when he came on holiday, he was about 12, 13, 14, went to Harrods, bought an executive magic set. That's what got him on the road. So these are great stories. I just love hearing that. It's great.
Yeah, well, I used to collect all of them, and you just mentioned that it's good to get people to collect them. I think one of the clever things that you did with Marvin's Magic, certainly when I was growing up, is you had the draw boxes. Yeah. And I ended up wanting every colour because you released them with different colours. And at one point, I literally just had one of everything, but also all of the executive collection boxes. And that's what was so clever about it. It
thanks.
really made you want to buy all of
Yeah,
them.
we tried, as I say, even the packaging was a magic trick as well. And
Yeah.
so I always, through my background, I suppose, in art and design and magic, and I always tried to do something a little bit different. What would I like if I was really, collected magic or wanted to get into it? And I think it's so important. And what's really strange is that now, some, probably 20, 30 years later from that, we're literally, the ideas, it's a different management team but I'm still head of product development and still, the ambassador for the brand. But I am working with them and they're tending to go very much back to the old ideas, that we had in those days. So that made me feel good as well.
Yeah, well, like I say, if you don't know about Marvin's Magic, my goodness, you're missing out. But do go check out some of the sets because they're still producing some amazing, innovative sets. Even the recent Rubik's Cube one was incredible. But as we're recording it, we're actually on the stage at the Magic Circle HQ, where you are now president.
Yeah, that's a big honour. Obviously, the Magic Circle, the #1 magic society in the whole world, promoting excellence in magic, and I feel very at home here because I've grown up obviously in the magic world. My father, as we mentioned, David Berglas, was president. In fact, we were the first father and son elected president. So it's in my blood. And he put his heart and soul into getting us this marvelous building and getting magic recognised as an art form and getting monies raised for it, and with a group of other people. And we're sitting here on the stage in the theatre, which I know very well because I'm here most weeks now. And it's a special place. We're going from strength to strength, and really delighted. We have, as I said, about 1,800 members around the world. We have a young magicians club, which is thriving. So the next generation is going to be coming through, and these kids, I mean, honestly, some of them, they know more than some of the masters of yesteryear. The access of information has improved, the coaching has improved, and the expectations. So just generally, a lot of good things happening, and I'm really proud of what we're doing here. And it's really nice when people tell me that it's got a great vibe about it. Club nights are busier than ever, and we're doing some wonderful stuff press-wise, getting the profile and the prestige up, which is really what I said I'd want to do if I came in.
Yeah, and it's great. And you mentioned the Young Magicians Club. If people around the world want to become a part of that, how can they go about it?
Well, the Young Magicians Club is from 10 to 18 years old. And we have, some fantastic mentors who look after it. Best way is probably to look on the website. It's got all the information there. And the difference between magic and music or sport is that, places like this, it's a very unusual situation where literally the very elite in our industry rub shoulders with people who are just starting out or, their journey in magic. And if you're a nice person and you engage with them correctly and know how to do that, it becomes almost a social thing, and then they take you under their wing and they can show you and help you with things which, certainly, as I said, doesn't happen in, elite sport or elite music.
Yeah, I agree. And it's a wonderful place to come. If you're not a member, please do look into joining because it's a phenomenal club. Now, you've been around magic your entire life. Obviously, your dad was an absolute legend who we've had so many people talk incredibly highly of. There's so many stories. But that must have meant that reducing your entire life into 8 tricks will be really difficult.
Yeah, I mean, Dad was a huge influence on us, and watching him was never easy when we were youngsters. He was your dad. So I used to get a little bit nervous if we went on. Let's say he was doing a theatre show. He was doing a theatre show, summer season in Brighton with, I'm showing my age here, Peter Gordino and Nina and Friedrich, and and I was probably 7 or 8 in the wings or watching the show, and it was nerve-wracking seeing your dad on stage in front of 2,000 people, and the reactions you get were on TV, and he made a conscious effort of coming off the air in the UK when we were younger, so we had a relatively normal upbringing. But he was away a lot. He was travelling a lot while we were younger. Mainly, he worked mainly abroad and was on the ships, and then he had his own TV series in Sweden and America, and then in Holland, where he became the first overseas TV personality of the year.
Oh, wow.
So when we went to Holland with him and people started really sort of looking and pointing in restaurants and getting his autograph and whatever, it was a weird experience for us, you know. And to be honest, we weren't, me and my late brother Peter, and we weren't really that interested in magic as you know, as youngsters. We were busy playing football and doing all things that young kids do, you know. It wasn't until I was about 16 or 17 that I really sort of got into it with that. And I went to a convention in Lyon. A guy who was helping him became ill, and I got a last-minute call from my mum at school saying, you know, any chance you can help Dad tonight? He's going to Lyon to this convention. He's got this new pack of cards that do all sorts of flourishes. It'd be great if you could help him, and his book's coming out. And I thought, yeah, it's better than this geography lesson, absolutely. So all of a sudden, that night, I was on a plane to France, and in the hotel room, it was a pack of cards that did some amazing fans and flourishes and springs and all that sort of thing. And he taught me how to do it. And I got a bit of a penchant for doing it, and it came quite naturally. And we had a sort of dealer's table, as it was called, sort of right at the back. And he was doing his lecture. And me being a little bit cheeky, entrepreneurial and whatever, I thought this is not the place for it. So I managed to negotiate to get the table literally right by the escalators in the main in this convention hall. And when my dad came back and he saw I had a huge crowd around me demonstrating and selling these things, he thought, that's my boy, you know. Yeah. So that's really where I got bitten by the bug. I was probably 16 or so, yeah.
Oh, wow. Well, so let's get into the concept. If this is the first time listening to the podcast, the idea is that we're about to maroon Marvin on his very own magical island. When he's there, he's allowed to take 8 tricks, banish 1 item, take 1 book, and 1 non-magic item that he uses for magic. Particulars like who's there, what's there, are there animals, all that good stuff, we do not mind. This is in Marvin's own imagination. So let's go to your island and find out what you put in position number 1.
Well, before we go into position number 1, you said it could be my own island and my own imagination. So when you say desert island, I like to think big. I like to think differently. Nothing is impossible. That's something that has been instilled into me. So my island is not a little island. My island is huge, and my island is, if you think more Tracy Island, you know, that's probably close to what is my home would be right at the top of this mountainous thing, glass all round, panoramic views. It would have a leisure centre, and it would have the pools, and you know, and then it would be protected by rocks for access. And then, you know, on the other side of the island, of course, we've got I walk onto a beautiful sandy beach, of course, and as you'd expect, but I wouldn't necessarily be fending just for myself, because just probably a quarter of a mile away is a beautiful health centre, leisure centre, all the other things. I've got all my mates, my family, my friends. I've got Arsenal Football Club, unbelievable. They've relocated a whole stadium just down the road, so I'm not missing any of the match days as well, which is great. So there's different ways of looking at things. So what would I take? Let's have a think. I've got my audience now, anytime I need them, and I've got my privacy. But obviously, I'm sure every magician must come on and say they use cards, they want cards. As I said, I was bitten by the bug firstly with these flourishes, sleights. The good thing about cards is that they're so adaptable and versatile. Firstly, obviously for flourishes, sleights, you can keep yourself occupied with learning those, and you'll never know them all. You're always learning, and I'm enjoying doing that even many years on. But obviously they're great for storytelling, they're great for tricks, they're great for sleight of hand, they're great for all sorts of other things. My personal trick, and my go-to trick, has got all the, I like to think within a moment or two, because I really don't enjoy long drawn out things with cards, you know, or counting to 21 and piles. That's not for me at all. You often have to make an impact in a relatively short space of time. So this trick works for me within a minute and a half to 2 minutes tops. Yet it's memorable. People tell me they remember it for the rest of their lives, which is what it's all about. It's how you make people feel. And my go-to trick is, you know, someone would take a card, I would remember it. I would probably do some sort of fairly show-off sleights and shuffles and all sorts. Put it behind my back, pull out a card. Lo and behold, it's the wrong card. Bit of comedy byplay with it. Tear the card up, give them a corner, and then spring the cards, and then find the card in. So then I'd hold the pack up, and their card would jump out. I'd literally spring it back, and one card would pop up right by my face. their card, which gets great reaction. Then as I pull the card out of that pack, it's got a corner missing, and lo and behold, they've been holding that corner the whole time and it fits perfectly. So that's got all the magician in trouble, it's got sleight of hand, it's got comedy, it's got everything, and it's a souvenir. So that would be, yeah. The trouble is, I suppose I'd go through quite a few packs of cards. If it was just one pack, I'd have to have a warehouse full of them, yeah.
Okay. Well, you've got we'll put the warehouse on there along with Arsenal football team and all of your friends and family as well.
Stadium, yeah,
That's good. So what was it about this trick? Is this just something that you've done throughout your entire career?
You know, it was one, you tend to, well, it was my dad actually who taught me this, you know, learn a few tricks really well rather than lots badly, right? So we as magicians, we are a sponge for wanting to learn new stuff all the time. We're always trying to improve, always trying to see what the new things are out there at conventions and with dealers and stuff like that. But really, I think the presentation is much more important than anything. So this was something which was inspired by Tom Mulliker. He's a great magician, fantastic comedy magician, but also a superb sleight of hand guy. And it also had a move that was taught to me. I think first show it's probably an old move, but it was shown to me by I think Mike O'Brien years ago actually. And I combine that with 2 or 3 things of my own as well. So I feel it's a unique trick and it feels like mine. And it just works and gets a reaction. And you know, heck, sometimes you can really do knuckle busting stuff, learning new things. You know, I'd always want to do a one-hand Vera shuffle and, you know, all that sort of stuff. And you finally learn it and you do various things. They don't get the reaction that you want them to, so they become your B material. To get to your A material, it's got to be better than, you know. So that trick historically, because I've done it so many times, is probably in my A material and never fails to get a good reaction.
Amazing. Well, that's a great one in at number 1, and we're in there with a card trick as well. So we'll see where this goes. So what did you put in your second spot?
Second spot, I'm going to put a book test.
Nice.
Because the selection of books would be from a library, any book from any shelf, of course, you know, make it as, and that would give me some reading material in my downtime. But the book test, I think, it's got some really clever things to it and presentation-wise, and so yeah, I think that would fit in quite well. As I said, has a double up of all sorts of reading material as well. Okay,
now do you have a preference to which book test you would take? Because obviously there are lots. We've had Mark Paul on here. I know he has his very popular AAA book test as well. Obviously there's lots of marketed book tests, like Motherable book test. We've got the Zandman book test, which is quite popular nowadays. What is the one that you would go for? Because you mentioned an entire library. So one would presume that maybe we're going for a gimmickless version?
Yeah, I think that's the strongest version. If you know, I think the idea is for people to have the feeling of a really free choice. So if we're talking magician's choice, I think that's a code people would know what I'm talking about, and you know, we know certain very good exponents of that, and that's really important, how you can literally narrow dozens, thousands of things down to one thing, and I think that's very strong to be able to do that. So that's partial methods, and then on top of that, there's differing things. I've changed I've tried various things. I'm the sort of corporate and private work that I tend to do. I always try to, if possible, personalize it to my client or to my host, you know, so there's something really truly memorable, you know. So it'd be book off their show. I did, for example, I did the launch for it was a stand-up show at Langhams actually, for Alex Scott. I don't know if you know Alex Scott. She's the broadcaster from the One Show and Football Focus, and she's an ex-Lioness, 100 caps for them. And she brought out a book, and in front of most of the Lionesses were there, Leah Williamson, all those people, and it was she just brought out a book. I had a prediction there, and the version that I had with the sentence that was rung out, something about, if my mum could see me now type of thing. And her mum was in the audience, and it literally brought her to tears. And I think that was more important than just the method of this, that, the other, It just fitted in, it just seems to fit in nicely. I was doing a spot anyway, it was it happened to be her book, it was her launch, all the publishers were there, all her friends and family and her mum, and it worked out. So things like that is really important to me.
Yeah, I agree. Personalising stuff is great. Yeah. Now, before we started, we did talk about the order of your list.
Yeah.
So, and you said, does that matter? With your list, how have you constructed this list? Did you go, these are just things that throughout your life you've used, or are these common things?
No, I actually didn't have much time to really think about this, and sometimes I prefer that, so I can talk off the cuff effectively. But then I looked at sort of my routines, and unfortunately a lot of them would be to do with cards, or a lot, versions of. So I was trying to look at all the things that weren't using those and bring it, down to hopefully a few. So I think my next one would be, I'll call it pseudo-psychometry, shall we? Okay?
Okay, so let's go straight into it then. So what did you put in your third spot?
So the third spot would be literally just some A4 whiteboards and some thick markers.
Okay.
And, with that and an audience, I'm able to get people to draw anything they like or write anything they like. And through some hopefully entertaining byplay, I can tell who's done what. And finally, I can duplicate the last person back to back with whatever they've drawn. Now, the reason I like that is, again, I mentioned I enjoy drawing, I enjoy art, I always have done. I find it very easy to do cartoons and sketches, so that comes very naturally to me. But also, being dry white and whiteboard, it's just a useful thing to have on a desert island, I would think, yeah. Mm. Credit to my dad then. I mean, his whole philosophy was you can take the smallest trick, and he used to say, and this is, sorry for your older listeners, a sixpenny trick from Woolworths. Firstly, sixpence isn't there, Woolworths, isn't there? Mm. But you could, in other words, or a 10 quid trick from Marvin's Magic. How about that? And you could literally, which is meant for close up or whatever, but he could adapt a way of putting it on the stage and filling the bigger stage or TV or whatever through his presentation, and that sort of rubbed off on me quite a lot, really. And I think that philosophy is pretty good.
Well, I think that's a great one, and it's our second mentalism piece. So we've gone from book test to pseudo-psychometry. So what did you put in your fourth spot?
Well, I would say it's probably another mentalist thing. I tend to do sort of comedy mentalism, and that's sort of my style more, a little bit. I purposely, I haven't said ACAN or anything of that nature because that's what you'd expect of me. I am quite interested in it, and obviously have had seen it at first hand. But the last thing I want to do is try and be a version of my dad, a bad version of my dad. Let him. What was really good. We hopefully reached the top differently. He used his last name, and I didn't use my last name. I used my first name to get there. What's nice, as I said, we met at the top. So my next thing, let's sort of thing, I would say it's just another tool really, which would be dice. Because dice seems a very fair way to select something, and the use of dice it seems quite portable, and again, plays small, plays big, but it wouldn't be. How I tend to use dice for selection is not the emphasis on the dice, but the emphasis on the numbers. So, for example, if someone says at a party or something, let's just see something, I just say, well, put any 6 objects on the table, and they would literally scramble around getting glasses, case, napkins, glass, bottle, whatever, in any way they wanted to. And I would make a big thing about that and mix them up. So far, dice is out of the question, and just say, right, I'm going to ask you and I haven't even taken the dice out, just to literally think of one of those objects, and I'm going to try and tell you which one I think you're thinking of. And, you could play it, whether you're saying it's down to NLP or body language or whatever, or you could just be, a mind reader. I mean, I don't make any claims, and I don't want to be this big I am, because I want to be able to just get on with my life and not have to hide behind a character. It's just a slightly different version of myself, when I perform. But they're thinking of this object, etc., and you playing around with other people, and then I do a lot of. I don't know if I mentioned this before, but when I cut my teeth, really doing. Combining my hobbies, which I always thought was really important. So as I said, I used to play football and go to football, and I became the first Premier League resident magician at Arsenal Football Club, and I have very close links with that club. And so when hospitality started there in the Premier League in 1993, they had a room where all the corporate sponsors and VIPs were, with an ex-player and a comedian and me. And it was a really good thing. Did the gig, get wine and dine on the top table, then get tickets to the match and get paid to watch the game. Wow, it's the best gig in the world. And as my reputation grew, and as we did more and more, as they moved to the new stadium, we moved from, let's say, 200 people who could be doing VIP hospitality to 6,000 people that could be sitting there. So I had a team of people and stuff, and it's moved and changed. But I still do the thing for they have a high rollers club there, and it's just amazing. I have very close links with the club, and from that I got to meet a lot of my good friends are from both in show business and in sport, because did all the stuff for the players over the years. Even the vice chairman at the time became one of my best friends, and go on holiday with him. It's just crazy what magic can do as long as you're a nice guy and you handle it well, or a nice girl. It's really important, and just get on with things. So coming back to this dice routine, so I do a lot of things where, for example, I do the Barbarians rugby team whenever they come over. And I've done that for many, many years. And these are top guys from all over the country, all over the world rather, Fiji, South Africa, Australia, France, Tonga. And they literally, their first night or second night together, it's very much a macho thing, and and how their personality. So as a magician doing that gig in quite a tight restaurant, they are thinking, you better be good, otherwise, mate, we are going to slaughter you, all right? And so it's quite a challenge, so this would be a really good thing. And so, for example, I'm doing that trick with the dice. It's 6 objects out, and you think of one, and then I say, right, when I do this normally, some of you guys, if I say it's number 6, you're going to say it's number 1, even if it's number 6. So listen, I've got a dice here, just so we can verify afterwards. Keep it out my sight, but put your number, then we can check afterwards if you're right, so you can't change your mind. So now the emphasis is totally on them thinking that, and this dice is just superfluous. But that's how it works for me, and that's how I do it.
Yeah, that's great. Now, when you talk about dice, let's talk about the prop for a second, because obviously there are, again, we can't give methods away, so I'm skirting around this a little bit for you guys at home, but there's obviously newer ones that, with technology, allow us to do certain things. There are older versions which allow you to force the outcome of one of those items. There's also gaffed dice and special dice.
Well, I don't think actually any of those is important. I think it's just the usage of them. You could because to the spectator they're all the same. So it's just got to be an everyday object. It's like if you see one of the top card magicians, for example, he blows you away with various things. I'm thinking of some of our top practitioners in this country. They're absolutely superb. So if they were, God forbid, to put a gimmick card in there or whatever, I mean, to us it still looks like huge skills, and they shouldn't have to apologise for that. That's just part of what they're doing. But they've earned the chance of doing it. It's like to me, that's just it's just a byproduct of what they're doing. You don't expect it because they can do stuff without it, but throw something in as well to take it to the next level. Why not?
Yeah, I agree. Well, I think that's a great one into number 4. So let's go to number 5. So what's in your 5th spot?
5 spot. If I'm in a 5th spot, this is a bit flippant, but if I'm in a desert island, I would be able to want to do an appearing helicopter or appearing boat, because I'm sure a speedboat, because I'm sure they would be useful. And no, I don't do those in my close-up act or in my stage act. But it would be useful if you're on an island, you know.
Okay, so if we were to hold you to one, a helicopter or a boat, which one would you go for?
And they both work?
Yeah, sure.
I'd go for the helicopter. I've always liked the aerial views of things, you know, seeing the surroundings. Yeah, I've always fancied a helicopter, actually.
Yeah, I think that'd be great. Yeah. Now, in terms of your set so far, this is your first stage piece. So, what is it about an appearing helicopter for you makes it the stage piece that you would do?
I've seen it done a few times. It's definitely not me, if I'm honest. You know, it's just but it's the unexpectedness of it is, I suppose, really what has got the audience. Seems like a lot of hard work to get that moment, but it's all about selling that moment, and I think that's really what illusions are. And you know, we enjoy. Everyone who's into magic enjoys watching a really great illusion as much as we enjoy a close-up piece. You know, the first time you see some really great magic, it should make the little hairs on the back of your neck stand up, and it's memorable, and that's really what it is. The best illusion I've ever seen was when I saw, with my dad, we saw the great late Hans Moretti live in a relatively smoky, small cabaret environment, and there was this, he was a mate of Dad's and stuff, so we got to be close, really close up. There was him and Helga, his wife, and this big chunky guy, you know, comes out, sweat on his brow. It was raw talent, you know, big guy chained up, you know, in this cardboard box, not a wooden, you know, box with all bits, in a cardboard box, sort of moving around, balancing on this rickety old table, so there's nothing underneath you could see. He gets in there chained up, and literally Helga gets someone from the audience putting these knives right the way through, these swords right the way through. There's no conceivable space whatsoever. How could this guy even be in there? And when it's opened up, not only is unharmed, but he's out of his chains and he's a costume change, and there was a live bird and a monkey or whatever. I just, you know, it blew me away. And that's what, you know, I'll remember that for the rest of my life, you know. And that's what a great illusion should be, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. That's one that we've spoken about on the podcast before, and we always talk about there are certain tricks in history that if you could, well, you have been there in this case, but if you could be there in the audience, like the first time the buzzsaw was performed, or the first time the zigzag was performed, all of those times, how amazing would that be? And I bet for you, I mean, you got the chance to be there.
Yeah, that was a great moment. Yeah, yeah. Add to that, flying from David Copperfield would be amazing to see that. Yeah, yeah. And Wayne Dobson's voices at the Palladium. That, you know, it's a classic bit of magic. You know, yeah. I mean, just what an incredible set he did with literally just 3 or 4 very standard props that could fit in your pocket. Yeah, he made 15 minutes of all-time great, you know.
Hello, you amazing human beings. Mark Spellman here to tell you about something I'm so excited about for 2026, and that is the inaugural Alakazam Magic Convention in Ashford. Half an hour from London and a short journey from most European countries. Come and join us at what will be an incredible day. For all of you that already know about Alakazam, what I'm going to say will be no surprise, but for those of you that haven't had a chance to meet the team in person, it is like a family. This is going to be an intimate gathering. Tickets are limited, but it is going to be the most incredible day. I will be lecturing, and I don't lecture half as much as I used to, and it's all new material and some things that I've kind of held on to for a while that I've not even done in previous lectures, that I'm kind of ready to let go, ready to let them fly and for you to enjoy them. But equally, I'll be performing my one-man show in the gala show, which has never been seen before. It's completely new, completely different. It's the stuff that I do for real corporate clients and also private events as well. So get your tickets. It's an amazing venue. I've seen the venue itself. It is super modern, super contemporary, hotel nearby. Come over and stay the night before. We're going to have jam sessions, brainstorming sessions, a few drinks maybe. We'll see how it goes. But ultimately, we're going to have the best time. Tickets are limited. Get them now so that you can say, I was there. The first one, I was there. Get your tickets now. See you soon.
So now we're moving on to a number 6. So that was our first stage trick as well. So where are we going with number 6?
I've got to give credit to one that's in our sort of range, and I'm going to call it Lights from Anywhere. Okay.
Okay.
For a variety of reasons. A, we have sold a lot of them over the years, so thank you. I know it's very interesting. People call them delights and stuff, but I know the origins very well. I was part of the research of that before we took it on, and we pay for the inventors' royalties. It's very important for us, to do things correctly. And it's copied in many different ways, and there's different versions of it. But like some of the versions now with white, bright lights for phones, they look great, and all that sort of thing. But it'd be useful if you're going out on a walk at night. You don't have to carry much with you, and you can just look at something close up or whatever and see your way through. And it's good fun, yeah. I think magic often is better, the less is more. So, for example, best ways to use these lights from anywhere. You're at a hotel or at the airport, and you're literally waiting with a few people behind you, and you're waiting for the elevator, looking up, nothing's there, and then you just press the button, it lights up, and you just literally pick up the light, look at it in your hand, put it back, and that's it. And then just get in the lift and see people's reaction. And now, of course, they seem much brighter than in those days. We had different versions and stuff. But actually, just the idea of it, it's the movement and the poetry of the movement which really makes it, and everything else. It's a real lesson to actually, like if you do take a coin and you haven't really taken it, but you're looking like you have taken it. It's the same with the passing the lights through. It teaches you very confidently about acting and where to put your hands, your expressions and all that, so you can guide people to look where you want them to look.
Yeah, and I'm glad that there was at least one Marvin's magic trick on there.
Well, there's not one, there's several.
Yeah, good, that's good. Right, so we're all now playing Marvin Berglas bingo, which is another trope that we have on this podcast. So let's go to our next one then. So this is number 7, I think.
Yeah, let's have a quick thing. So I'm going to say another Marvin's magic trick, because obviously having designed it, and we've done quite a few over the years, and people often ask, what is my favourite, And that's very difficult, because they are like kids, to come up with the concept, design it, get it made, get it onto the shelves, and then it become a popular thing. It's a whole process, 1.5 2 years for that whole process. And we've dozens and dozens of them over the years. But one of my favourites, we started off with the sort of silver boxes that, and I unearthed a few actually. We're just changing our warehouse, and I just literally found a box full of mint condition stuff we put by, a real collector's thing, And then we did the first and only magic set for the Magic Circle, which is ironic. We helped raise, up to about 180 grand towards this building actually, through the royalties of its sales over the year, which is the purpose of doing it. Dad was president at the time, and we wanted to help that, and we got. So the Magic Circle wasn't really known, but it was just a beautiful box set. Sorry, it wasn't really known in retail environment. Yeah. It was known to older people at the time, but it was a good way of getting the name out there and putting it. So it's a real quality set, which still stands up, for scrutiny. It was much better quality than a lot of what was out there at the time. And as you said, we put it on TV, on QVC and all that sort of stuff as well. And it got really well known. Michael Jackson came into the store, and it got pictures of him holding it and kissing it. He was so thrilled with it. It's crazy. So that was an important set. There was also, as you said, the executive set, which was how to make money appear in front of your bank manager or whatever, and in a little attaché case. We did a beautiful magic shop, which was for younger kids with really nice artwork. A secret box, which was an empty box full of close-up magic. That was one of my favourites. But the real, and as you say, the Rubik's one was a recent one, which was really good, which we worked with Erno Rubik, who was the actual inventor. They came to us, which is great, saying for their 40th anniversary, we made it a giant Rubik's Cube box that had all Rubik's Cube themed stuff inside there. Funny enough, the cleverer we try to be, and this, of course, freaky body illusions. You remember what it was?
Yeah.
So
you had street magic as well.
Yeah, with, mind
pub
blowing,
tricks
mind
as
blowing.
well.
Yeah. So you can see we worked hard over the years. You know, I'm just, it's just not. You haven't sat back. I'm working hard. But the thing is, even when you come up with these really great themes and stuff, it doesn't necessarily. You can be too clever because it's a little bit becomes a bit niche if it's too clever. And so the most successful sets over the years tend to be, unfortunately, the big box with a certain number of tricks and good design and that type of thing, and value. Unfortunately, that's how the consumers see it. Whereas obviously, as magicians, we see it, the collectability and the fun side of it. But having said that, the one that probably I'm most proud, which was a collaborative effort with a few people and still going very strong, is our eye magic, Marvin's eye magic, because it came with a great series of tricks, but it also came with an app, and you could use all those same tricks plus more. So in other words, for example, let's just say I had some lights from anywhere in there. You could actually say, oh, look at my phone now, it's out of charge. And you could do the same action with lights from anywhere, but touch your phone and it would go as if it's charging your phone. And then, bing, yeah, it's fully charged now. Things like that. That little dice canister where you put a dice inside a little canister and then put it into another canister and you can divine the number. Now that's a great trick. It's been around for years actually, but through iMagic, we were able to. You cleverly the magicians would know how to get the number first, but then you get the phone, you put it over, and with augmented reality, it scanned or appears to scan the top of that little canister and will show you and reveal in an X-ray form the actual number that's top of the dice. Now that's a fantastic thing, and that's cleverer to me than anything we've done. And there's a whole series of these things. There's another one which is in that. So it had a whole load of bonusy sort of tricks. Another one where you said, "Oh, I've got a bug in my phone," and then you show it, and it's bzzz, and there's a fly flying around in your phone, stuck in your phone, and then you've got we call it a little fly swat thing. It's actually a paddle. Magicians know what I'm talking about, but in fact, you get two paddles, and you touch the phone, and all of a sudden, it disappears from inside your phone. Now you've got a three-dimensional fly on your phone, and now you take out the other one. You can make the fly jump from one to the other. You can make him go back and forth. Then put him back in your phone. He's buzzing around with sound again, and then you would blow on it, and it would freeze over, and then you would literally with your hand wipe it away like on a cold winter's day in your car, and you'd see now that little fly is inside an ice cube, and then you get a glass underneath and you shake it and the graphic of that falls down and a real fly in a real ice cube ish goes into the glass. So things like that, routines, those are superb. So nowadays, this is now we won some design awards with that, and it was really successful. It was a good team effort, a lot of people involved in different ways, but what was really good, we now give that our app is free with everything. So it has, for example, which hopefully a point of difference, we've got you do the QR code from the app inside the instructions. You've got video instructions in different languages of everything, and it has these bonus types of tricks and augmented reality characters that pop up. And so we try to use the props that you get, which are good anyway. The instructions are great because they're meant to be, but what's better if you use them in conjunction with the app? It's then bingo, really great stuff. So I'd say Marvin's eye magic. I would say had a good old mention, of course, for dynamic coins. How could you not put that in there as well? But so I'm very proud of what we've done over the years, and it's really nice to hear I still get stopped, people say, you started me, I saw this and this, that, and that really makes me feel great,
I can't believe I'm about to do this to Marvin Berglas, but we do have Devil's Advocate on this podcast, and Devil's Advocate always pops up. So, if you were to take that magic set, and you were to take one trick in particular out of that set, what is the one trick that you would take out in particular?
I think it's a very simple card trick called Kings to Aces. And I love that trick because I've learned through sleight of hand. I was lucky enough to lecture at FISM quite recently, and the huge screen behind me, and some absolute giants in the audience. Michael Amar, Sylvain, all these top people and it was brilliant to show how, to explain how it was called Secrets of a Magic Empire. And I'm normally quite humble about what we've done, but they said, no, I really want to hear some of these stories. So I wanted to explain the difference between how we come up with the Marvin's magic trick. And I worked really hard to learn over the years a really good, unusual 4-ace production, and then how they swap places and all this type of thing, and twisting the aces, and it's a combination of about 4 or 5 different things where you could, if you wanted to, entertain for quite a few minutes with just 4 cards, from making an appearance. But then I showed how exactly the same thing I could teach pretty much anybody within a minute or two to perform what looks like very similar magic in moments, just with these special cards, and that to me is it's such a wonderful trick. A trick where they change places, and then reds to blacks, and then they change totally to all the 4 aces, and you can show front and back of all the cards, just 4 cards that you're using. Great trick.
Yeah, one of the first ones that I got in your, I think it was the executive card collection, and then you released that into individual sleeves in a box set with different colours. That's one for you guys to look out for. But it does lead us rather sadly onto number 8, so your final selection.
Well, it's a sort of combination of what we've said before, and I think there's a little known gimmick that all magicians use, very subtle. If I said lights from anywhere, it gives you a good hint what I'm talking about. But with that little thing, you can just do some amazing things. I mean, a bill switch has been always, just imagine being able to borrow a £20 note, and then right in front of someone or a camera or whatever, being able to change to a £50 note, or pouring some salt into your hands and then it disappears, or it ends up in a cup, or there's just so many different things. And I'm sure on a desert island in particular, you can't be without that.
Yep. And I think so. Again, we did like a sum up of the first year, and I'm fairly sure this was in our top 5 or our top 8, of ever asked. And although the guys didn't get the chance to see this on video, I had Mark Spellman recording his, and he literally picked up a case and opened it up, and it was just thousands of them, where he just collected them over the years, and he loved them. In the Magic Circle here, if you go downstairs opposite the library, there is a very cool room that the general public don't get to go into when they're here, and that's of gimmicks through the years. And there is a collection down there of this particular prop. Well, I think that's a great one. So we've had one big stage trick there. We've got a couple of mentalism tricks with the book test that we had at the very beginning. We had your card trick opener as well, so it's a great set. That now leads us to the controversial one. So if you were to dig a big sandy hole on your island and put something from our industry in there to banish forever, what would it be?
Negativity.
Okay.
That's what I'm going to banish, because I am very much, if you know me, I mean, we're here on the stage of the Magic Circle. I'm president of the Magic Circle, and we have all sorts of members all around the world. And collectively, we can do so much in our industry, and we have done so much, and we are doing so much. But there's always 1 or 2 people who are half glass empty rather than half glass full. And I think to get on in life and to get on and be positive, you've got to be forward thinking. And I've always really preferred to find solutions to problems rather than just giving reasons of why things can't be done. So I'm a positive person, and I just think that there's no room for negativity. Sure, things have got to be considered and discussed and financially looked at or whatever, but together we can do anything. You know, all things in mankind have started with an idea. You know, whether you're building up the largest magic company in the world, or wanting to get to president of the Magic Circle, or wanting to do whatever you want to do in life, everything can be done. They're all small little moments in life that you earn that chance, and it's down to integrity, it's down to politeness and respect, but positivity is so important, and you know, that's the main thing that my dad has rubbed off on me, you know, is that nothing is impossible.
Yeah, we recently had Neil Henry on, who spoke very much in the same way, and he attributed his sort of positive mindset to almost coincidental things happening around him. So the fact that he was open-minded and positive about something, things would just start happening, 100%. Doors would start opening for him.
Sliding doors moments, that is life. One thing leads to another, leads to another. You can't always get to where you need to get straight away, but you'll find sliding doors, things, opportunities happen. And people say to me, so how can you do that? You're in 68 countries, how do you do this now? Do you know what? I don't know. It just has happened gradually because we've been reliable, we've got a good brand, we've got good design, we care, you know, and things happen. And people want to associate with good and with positive people as opposed to negative people.
Yeah. Can you think of one of those sliding doors moments from your career?
Yeah, I mean, I can. My biggest one, which I was probably back in 2000 or so, when after we got into, we'd been in Hamleys and Harrods and F.A. Schwartz in New York and places like that, we had this slot on QVC when they first opened in 94. You mentioned it. And it was 1994. QVC wouldn't normally have people of your age watching it because it was quite frankly boring. It was like mainly jewellery, and it was just close-ups of something, and they moved it slightly. Can you see it glinting now? If I do this, can you, hold on, if I do that. And it was like yawn, yawn, yawn. But that's what that was the model. So the buyer then of Harrods moved on and knew of me, and you know, obviously we did a good job there. So they said, look, our bosses are wanting to get new names, people watching this. We want to attract more viewers. So they gave us a 2-hour slot on a Sunday. I used to do it with Mark Paul and Bruce Smith. And that's pretty good to be able to to do 2 hours live magic. Good experience, and over 125 hours of live TV on there. And you can't just sort of say, look, I'm just going to go on there and get this ready while you can't. You have to be able to segue through things seamlessly and show them. And hopefully, you know, you said you watched as a young kid. Yeah. Hopefully, it looked quite professional.
It was great.
We had different ways of, you know, talking to each other and hurrying up, or I'll go next, or whatever, you know. But it was all very good. It was a good learning curve. Anyway, from that moment, we actually got our sales were pretty good, and we got the opportunity to go into QVC USA, which goes into 63 million homes. Wow. It's the biggest live studio in the world in Philadelphia, and I had to go over to negotiate, and basically that was a big thing for us. We had 2 one-hour shows, Marvin's Magic with Marvin Berglas in November, and then another in December, and the story was they bought a lot of product, and each product had to be separately wrapped up and labelled like mail order packaging now. But the thing was, as a young company, it was all sale or return. So in other words, if it didn't sell, it was all coming back. So no pressure. Had to finance all this. And it's funny, if it wasn't a magic product, it was a non-magic product, the magic drawing board, that did the best, and which was an art and craft way, which I turned into magic by the way we demonstrated it. But they bought a lot of those, and I sold more in that one, you know, slot in the 4 minutes with 1,000 odd people on the switchboard, and it just snowballed from that. We came back to do the next lot, and then eventually they built a TV commercial, direct response TV commercial around us using our name, moved into America and got into all the big retail stores and et cetera, et cetera. But, you know, again, all from just one thing leading to another. So that was a good sliding doors moment, you know?
Wow, that's amazing. And the magic drawing board you had when I watched when I watched you on QVC as well.
Yeah.
And what always amazed me was not even the board, it was how you guys demonstrated the pictures so perfectly every time, and then you would just wipe it off, then do the next design perfectly.
Well, that was, I mean, I started on that product in Hamleys right by the front door on a cold February 1979, I think it was. And it was an old product even then. But I just brought it to life, and I told you I enjoyed drawing, so those same drawings and demonstrations were what I came up with back then, and you know, many people have done them afterwards since. But what was fantastic, you know, being an old product then, and the old adage was when I took it from Hamleys to Harrods, an old boy buyer at the time, he picked it up with tweezers, put it in the bin, and said, "Not that old stinker." You know, it made me feel terrible. As a result, we a few weeks later, rather than being negative, remaining positive, went back to Harrods, but their art and craft department happened to be on the ground floor, and we had a 1 week promotion there, literally right by the front door, and the drawing board did fantastically well. Been there 40 years thereafter. Went on to sell literally millions of that item in a few year period. So when that guy said, "Not that old stinker," it sort of rings a bell. You know, be nice to people over there. You know, you never know.
Yeah. Did you ever get the chance to see him again? Just to be.
Do you know? Funny enough, I did. I saw him some years later when I was a bit more experienced in the industry, and he was on. He had obviously left Harrods or lost his job there and was working for a toy company. He was on his hands and knees dusting some shelves on the bottom, and I was sort of looking, and I didn't say anything. I just thought something. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Well, that brings us to our last two things. So, a book. So, out of all of the books that you must have, of course, your dad, we've had quite a few of his books on the podcast. Which book would you take with you?
Well, a few near misses. I think one of the books that I really enjoyed when I was getting into magic was Now You See It, from Bill Tarr, which was a beautifully illustrated book. And for me, that was the drawings, and it just made it so much easier to understand and to see those things. So that was wonderful. And I still remember those, teaching you various moves and all that type of thing. Obviously, if you think of the magic of Michael and Marr or Williamson's Wonders, if you could do everything in those books, you would have an act for life. You would be able to go anywhere around the world with a few props and earn a great living. Trust me, you know. So they're honourable mentions for sure. I enjoyed all of those books. I'm not an avid reader of books for some reason. I'm time poor really, and I find it easier to be shown and whatever. But it's always interesting when certain books resonate with you and you hear it in the words of the actual author, you know. You get to know their character. But, you know, I don't want to be boring, but the book that I'm going to have to say is my dad's book, because it was The Mind and Magic of David Berglas, which is a bit of a tomb. Unfortunately, it's not easily accessible now. There's, you know, there is one in the Magic Circle Library, but why that book? Firstly, I remember the hard work that David Berglas and my dad and Jim Steinmeier, the publisher, you know, put into that, all the efforts and the illustrations and the, you know, he put his heart and soul into that, and it was really, it had his personality in it. And I think people who really get it know that it's actually reading between the lines is the bigger thing. He makes you think about things in a very different way. And I probably actually haven't read it all the way through. I read bits and pieces as needed, sort of thing, and which is criminal, really. But it's actually, you know, it's on my bookshelf in my office, right by, you know, it's always there. Some pretty sick pictures of me when I was a kid with glasses on, looking quite embarrassing. But I love the way that also my dad. We had a mutual respect and love, and he was a great family man, but I think the generations before us weren't as effusive with their love and affection in the way maybe I am with my kids or whatever now. And But he paid the biggest compliment because the book finished, and if you read the last paragraph, he goes, I'm now in my, I think it was 70s or something like that, 70s, and having a walk round Hyde Park at the moment, or Regent's Park, and feeding the ducks, feeling quite pleased with myself. And then there's a rather attractive girl or lady behind us who's sort of looking at me and thinking, there was a lady who stopped me for my autograph, you know, and then the lady behind, rather attractive lady, and who's coming up to me, and I'm thinking, why is she coming up to me? Is it because I'm president of the Magic Circle? Is it because she's watched some of my corporate things over the years? Is it because she watched my TV series, or etc.? So I held my stomach in and waited, and with her big blue eyes, though I looked at her and said, are you really the father of Marvin Berglas? And what a way to finish. I mean, God, that's just unbelievable, his way of, that will always be with me, that he did that, of all, his whole unbelievable career with all film stars and movie stars, and he finished it on that. I love that.
Well, the thing is, you mentioned about not reading the book, but I guess the difference is, and we've had your dad's book quite a few times on the podcast, Tony Antonio, which was this week's guest at the time of recording this interview, he mentioned it as well. And the difference with all of those guys and you is you lived it. Mm. You didn't really need to read the book. You had your first-hand experience of being there and soaking in all of that information and all of that wisdom. So for you, and I think this a lot about Harry a lot of the time as well, it must be such a weird thing for you, because for you, he was dad, but to the rest of the world, he was someone so instrumental in our industry.
Yeah. I've definitely got some very special memories and experiences, and whilst people, the elephant in the room for me sometimes was that people would suggest, that maybe he started the Marvin's Magic. Obviously it was just me, and I started it, and whilst he was obviously really helpful as needed, the real help he gave was actually the hidden, invisible help of just a mindset, that you can do anything, nothing is impossible, and just an assumption of positivity, really. That's basically what it is, I think I'm in awe now. I mean, as the more people, as I've got further and further into magic, and I meet people all around the world, the love and respect they have for me is vast and deep. And his thinking, he was very ballsy when I think back, like if you were to think of someone similar today, to have their own TV series or open for the Rolling Stones or do a huge stunt or whatever, they would have teams of people and publicity working with them, But he did tons of things. Like he was on film, he loved doing the film sets, where he was a magic advisor or consultant on, James Bond movies, Batman movies, working with tons of different people, and he loved that creativity, and I can see that. But also as a performer, he started off doing 6 shows a day, 6 days a week at Windmill Theatre, and then moving the variety halls as was needed back in the 50s and 60s, and on walls at home was his all the posters where they measured their billing, and he's on with Morecambe and Wise and Ruby Murray and Harry Worth. It's just mental. It's just crazy. That's my dad, But obviously he's influenced me greatly. Yeah, it was actually 3 months before I got voted in. 3 months after I got voted in. So he saw me get voted. There's a lovely quote that he put out there, and it's still out there, I think. And that means a lot that he saw that, at least, But so his heyday was obviously a lot earlier, but his legacy will live on, and hopefully mine will one day as well.
No doubt at all. Now, we've obviously had some amazing choices. I'm so glad you put that book in there. But you do have one more thing, which is your non-magic item that you use for magic. Now, rather interestingly, you had a dice earlier, which is technically, depending on what dice you're using, a non-magic item that you use for magic. So you could have put that in there, but you haven't. So what is the non-magic item that you use for magic?
Well, this is going to sound a bit dull, but it would probably be a phone, because if you actually think, what do people carry around now? I mean, we started with cards and coins and silks. People don't have silks anymore, do they? And stuff. So what do you have in your pockets, really? And everyone at this moment in day and age has a phone, and a phone is obviously great on a desert island for communication, as long as you've got power and charger and all that sort of stuff. And it's amazing that you've got. If we think back a generation or two, they won't believe us that we used to have the Encyclopedia Britannica on our shelves when we were kids, and that all that information's inside there. You had your record collection, all that information's inside there. All your best games and entertainment and you can communicate, and it's crazy. But obviously, I was talking to Mark Kirstian, who's a great inventor of apps and stuff. And he rightly said it shouldn't be, oh, that's clever, your phone's doing it. It should be, if you're doing magic with a phone, it should be the byproduct of just that's the prop, as opposed to that's a clever app, But there are many different things out there, and I too would use that if required,
There's some great apps out there, and I think that's a great choice to close off your list.
Okay.
So now. We do have to get off the stage because they've got something going on in here in a minute. But before we go, if people want to find out more about joining the Circle, the Young Magicians Club, Marvin's Magic, about you as president, where can everyone go?
Well, obviously, your phone is a good thing, or a computer, because obviously all of those things each has their own website and information about it. On the Magic Circle site itself, it's very informative about how to join. And if you are a magician and you haven't joined, I really would urge you to, because it's never a better time. I mean, we've answered pretty much all the questions. We get some superb lecturers in regularly and shows that we put on here. We also have got an amazing building, so if you are in London and you're able to get here, you have access to the museum and an incredible library, 13,000 books, and a superb collection of things to see. But it's a beautiful building, and you also have access to over 100 years of magical magazines, which has all been catalogued and digitised, so you can see all those, and all our videos are soon to be digitised as well, so you'll be able to access various things. And for out of town people who can't make it in regularly, doesn't matter, because we now stream all our lectures and shows, and then they are on the library, so you've got access to all of those. So what's not to like? It's an incredibly collaborative environment and some great people, and we particularly like to think during my leadership we've got a fantastic council and a lot of people who give so much time and energy to this society, and they care drastically, and it shows, and long may it continue. And I'm really proud of that, and I'd like to thank them really, because it's it's a big team effort, but we get some great things done, and I really think it's very important for magic for the future.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much again. It's been very much a full circle moment for me, going from young me watching you on QVC to this moment. So thank you so much.
Great pleasure.
Also, do check out Marvin's Magic as well. And if you've never been to HQ, my goodness, please come here. It is quite honestly one of the most magical places I think I've ever stepped into. There's so much history here. And when you think about the people who have walked through the corridors here over the years, and the entire place is a museum. It's absolutely incredible. We've got Tommy Cooper's props here. We've got the original Zigzag Lady here. We've got some of Chung Ling Su's outfits downstairs in the museum as well. There's some absolutely incredible things here, so please do go check it out.
We've also got the actual cups and balls that were used by King Charles, it was Prince Charles then, when he became a member. So even we've got the best people here as members. And if you just want to see a great public show, you just love magic, we have close-up magic shows on Friday evenings. We have kids shows on the weekend. We have a whole diary of new types of shows are coming from our live events team over the next few weeks. So check out the website. We're selling our Christmas show tickets. We've got a really good Christmas show this year, Halloween, etc. So more and more chance to get in,
Amazing. Well, there you go. If that isn't a reason to come here, then I don't know what is. But thank you guys. Of course, we're going to be back next week with another episode of Desert Island Tricks. But for now, have a great week.
When I perform at gigs, I look at effects that tick these 3 boxes. Is it super strong and powerful? Yes. Will it last with your spectators for a lifetime? Absolutely. And does it leave them with a souvenir that perfectly captures the moment of magic? If that all sounds exactly what you're after, look no further than the liquid forks. These forks have been custom designed to be able to bend right in front of your spectators' eyes. It's so easy to perform, it's so visual, and trust me, they will honestly keep this impossible object because they've seen it morph in front of their eyes. It literally does the impossible. Not only that, Liquid Forks comes with 50 of these forks in each pack, and it comes with the full Liquid Forks routine taught by the world famous David Penn. Not only that, we have a subscription service. If you guys love these forks and you get through them at your gigs, we now offer a monthly subscription where you get sent a box through every single month at a 10% reduced fee. Like I said, you guys are going to be loving these. You're going to be performing them every chance you can. Trust me, the reactions are second to none. So guys, head over to alakazam.co.uk, pick up a set of Liquid Forks. You will not regret it. Easy to do. Leaves them with a killer souvenir. And to be honest with you, it's not cards, it's not coins, it's not mentalism. It's something beyond belief. Check it out now, guys, the Liquid Forks.